What is Yakuza? Yakuza is umami in gaming form. It is a punch to the face. It is too much of everything at all times. It is the girliest, gayest, most hyper-masculine franchise out there. Often, all of these things at the same time.
Oh my god! Masaka Kiryu-chan ga notte kuru to wa!
It is a series of games that revels in the absurd while tapping into deep human emotions. It will at the same time over-explain plot points so you believe them, while asking the most out of your suspension of disbelief for other things. It is a cacophony of clashing tones, bonker ideas, and sheer ridiculousness, presented to the player with a lot of love and care. It is a franchise that's definitely not for everyone, but it is certainly for me. After playing Yakuza 0 for the first time in 2020, I became obsessed with Yakuza and played every single one of the numbered Kiryu titles in the series in less than a year. In early 2023, I finally played Like a Dragon, which finally allowed me to rank all of Yakuza's mainline entries in my typical live ranking format. So, buckle in, because we're going to check each Yakuza title chronologically, and at the same time, I'll be ranking them, sharing with you guys what I believe to be the best Yakuza title out there. FYI, there's no samurai spin-off, zombie spin-off, or detective spin-off in this one, just the Yakuza / Like a Dragon titles. Also, when I talk about Yakuza 1 and 2, I'll be talking about the Kiwami games as well. After all, they are much easier to find, and really there's no reason to go back to the PS2 titles, unless you really want to check Mark Hamill's take on Majima.
That was impressive, Kazuma-chan.
They are too similar to be considered separate entries, and the Kiwami ones ape the originals in every way. Let's go. Toshihiro Nagoshi wanted to make something more mature than his previous works like F-Zero GX, Spike Out, and Super Monkey Ball. And when you look at the dude, you can sort of see that maybe, just maybe, making games about fun-loving monkeys wasn't that creatively fulfilling for him. Specifically, he wanted to tackle the way of life of the Yakuza, but had a real hard time finding funding and people who would like to be associated with such a project. Eventually, in 2000, Nagoshi hit up Hase Seishu, a famed Japanese novelist known for writing Yakuza crime novels, with his ideas for a Yakuza-focused game, and the two hit it off right away. Getting funding and approval was still hard though, and it would take Nagoshi 2 more years to get the ball rolling on the original Yakuza. I'm just spitballing here, but I don't know, Nagoshi was having a hard time getting an R-rated, gritty crime game greenlit, because in Japan people in the industry didn't really see a market for that. And then, in late 2001, GTA 3 was released and it was a worldwide hit. I can't say for sure, but it seems to me that probably showed Sega there was a place in the world and an audience for this type of title. So, in 2002, the game would finally be greenlit under the codename Project J over at Sega's then-named CS1 division. And over the next 3 years, more than $20 million would be poured into this love letter to Yakuza crime dramas. People with experience in very different genres of gaming within Sega would all work together to build the game from scratch. As you might imagine, everyone in the team was fairly inexperienced when it came to developing an open-world game, as it was a novel idea in the early 2000s. Nagoshi, however, has publicly stated that this inexperience ended up being a trump card for the team, as they didn't know what was considered okay or not when it came to an open world, being truly free to make the game they wanted to make. Worries about jarring tones and mechanics be damned. All in all, CS1's approach to open worlds in the first Yakuza is definitely more restrained than a true sandbox, like the one seen in the PS2 GTA titles. I guess this has to do with the fact that the game has a far more linear and rich narrative than the one seen in, say, GTA 3. So in Yakuza's case, the open world is there to serve the narrative, not as the be-all and end-all of the game. We all remember people back in the PS2 days who didn't even bother with the campaign in GTA and would literally just engage with the sandbox. You can't really do that in a Yakuza title. And I'm not saying one approach is fundamentally better than the other here, I'm just saying these are different philosophies to open world design, and both of them allow me to engage in cool virtual tourism in cities I will never realistically visit, so that's nice. Speaking of virtual tourism, did you know that they wanted to fill the world with real-life Japanese brands, but most of them did not want to be associated with the game? Only Suntory agreed because they felt there was some brand synergy between their new Scotch line and the game. That's crazy. Anyway, the original Yakuza would be in development for 3 years in a proprietary engine, with Nagoshi's very own Spike Out as the base for the game's beat-em-up combat style and Jet Set Radio serving as a starting point for the creation of the game's map. Project J would be revealed to the public as Ryuga Gotoku or Like a Dragon for the PS2 in August of 2005. There's actually a hilarious IGN article about the press conference for the game, in which the author tries to make sense of what the f was going on over at Sega and why a new Shenmue-like from the Super Monkey Ball team was being unveiled at a strip club in Tokyo. Bro didn't know it back then, but having Shenmue, Super Monkey Ball, and a Tokyo strip club in the same sentence is probably the most Yakuza thing ever. The game would be released in late 2005 in Japan and almost a year later in the West because that's how Japan rolled back then. Yakuza introduces us to series protagonist Kazuma Kiryu, a stylish dude in his mid-20s who emotes like a T-800 or Data from Star Trek TNG. He's got emotions, mind you, he just doesn't express them all that well, I think. Anyway, he's with the Tojo clan, a Yakuza group, and in the beginning of the game, Kiryu gets tangled up in the murder of Sohei Dojima, the boss of his Yakuza family under the Tojo. But in actuality, he's just covering for Nishikiyama, his bro, because Kiryu always puts family first and Nishiki killed that Dojima dude to protect Yumi, another childhood friend, from Dojima's sleazy advances. Kiryu takes the fall for Nishiki and serves 10 years in prison. However, when he's finally released, everything has changed around him. The Tojo clan is facing a major crisis since 10 billion yen from the organization have gone missing, as did Yumi. His bro, Nishikiyama, is now a major player within the Tojo. However, he's not thankful for Kiryu. He straight up wants to murder him. Kiryu will then have to navigate this new world with the aid of friends like another Yakuza bro, Shinji, Mama Reina, host Yuya, and Detective Date, while trying to protect Haruka, this young girl who might be related to Yumi. This is just a basic summary for the main plot, but you get the gist. What you have to know is that Yakuza goes all in on the melodrama, and throughout its 13 chapters you will be faced with absurd plot twists that will test your suspension of disbelief, and I love it. You can really get a sense of mystery from the plot, and it really feels like a Yakuza movie for the most part. Hase Seishu does an outstanding job, really. Another important thing to know is that Seishu was only involved with the main story, with all the side stuff being written by other people, like Masayoshi Yokoyama, who, I don't know, is absolutely insane, I guess. The result is a tonal mismatch unlike any other in gaming, something which would end up defining the series going forward, and as long as you go along with it, it's just plain fun. Sure, we get stuff that clashes a lot with our cultural sensitivities as of 2023, like Kiryu slaps a 9-year-old. That does not change how I feel about the character because, different times, different cultures, but yeah, it's weird to see. Like, I don't subscribe to these values, and hopefully you don't as well. What you really should subscribe to is my channel. How about that? Leave a like and a comment as well. Like I said before, I will use Kiwami remakes to address the gameplay in both Yakuza 1 and Yakuza 2, and that's because going back to the originals is pretty rough and unnecessary, since the story is word for word the same, with just some added stuff that actually makes the game better. For instance, I tried out one on PC, you know how, don't ask. And look, Saying the original controls are janky and tanky is underselling it. Trying to move Kiryu around made me feel like Sandra Bullock in that awful Speed sequel in which she tries to turn a cruise ship around. It was rough. The combat was pretty bad too. However, at the time it was a highlight for critics, so you never know. For the Kiwami release, the combat revolves around switching up Kiryu's fighting styles to match that of his enemies. You have Brawler, Rush, and Beast, with the fourth one, Dragon style, being tied to the story. It's your standard beat 'em up with light attacks, heavy attacks, and Yakuza's signature heat actions, which are out of this world. Just so you know, Kiryu does not kill people, alright? These dudes are fine. Overall, the combat is nothing to write home about. It's okay for the most part. Some boss battles are unreasonable and tiring, but it is stylish enough that you don't mind it all that much. We also get a bunch of crap to go along with the story and the combat. Yakuza's approach to side stuff is that box of chocolates one, in which you really, truly don't know what you're going to get. There's the standard stuff you'll see in every single modern-day open-world game. You have darts, pool, bowling, poker, roulette, batting cages, and esoteric games I'll never understand like mahjong or shogi. And that's just the standard stuff. You also have actually fun stuff like pocket circuit racing, karaoke, and access to complete Sega arcade games, as well as whatever Meisu King is. Yes, that one was tailor-made to infuriate that lady from the "This is why I hate video games" meme.
Because this is what it does, it appeals to like the male fantasy.
Do notice that we can consider Kiwami as a faithful remake of the original, and at the same time as a sequel to a future title in the series, Yakuza 0. That's because Kiwami was released right after 0, and it uses that game's engine to recreate the original game. Therefore, Kiwami has to accommodate character development and new characters seen in 0, for instance, giving more screen time to both Nishikiyama and Majima, who in the original Yakuza was a minor character but in Kiwami gets a lot more screen time, since he was a playable character in 0. I don't think any of this will affect your understanding of the game if you're new to the series and would like to play this chronologically. However, I played 0 first and then Kiwami, and I honestly feel like that's a better strategy. Still, Yakuza 1 is a great, ambitious game that absolutely sets the tone for the future of the series. And you know how it goes, at the time of its release, Yakuza was the best Yakuza game around. Less than a year after Yakuza 1, Japan would get Yakuza 2, also for the PS2 and keeping most of the personnel from the previous title, with Ryuta Ueda returning as director, Hase Seishu as main writer, and creator Toshihiro Nagoshi as executive director. For this second entry, Toshihiro stated that he wanted an even more mature story than its predecessor, including themes not present in the original, like an adult love story. And I gotta say, they nailed it. In the game, we once again follow Kiryu, who is trying to lead a peaceful life raising Haruka, when he gets tangled up in some good old Yakuza drama. This time, a war between the Tojo clan and the Osaka-based Omi alliance is brewing, so Kiryu will have to join forces with messy party animal Daigo, son of late asshole Sohei Dojima, and badass detective Kaoru Sayama, in order to stop the conflict from wrecking up everything and everyone in its path. We'll also meet up with familiar faces like Goro Majima, Detective Date, and the bros over at Host Club Stardust. As the story progresses, things will get even trickier, as the Korean Mafia will get involved, and secrets from both Kiryu's and Sayama's pasts will be revealed. The plot is overall much more grounded and compelling than the one in the first game. Ryuji Goda is one of Yakuza's best villains, and the love story between Kiryu and Kaoru works surprisingly well. It is believable, although it does escalate incredibly quickly. I guess we could chalk that up to the extreme circumstances in which the romance blossoms, but I liked it nonetheless. We also get another open world area to explore other than Kamurocho, Sotenbori, which was based in real-life Dotonbori in Osaka. The areas feel even more lived in and believable than in the first game, as a bunch of real-life Japanese brands decided to partner up with Sega and sponsor the game after the success of the first title. So now we get discount store Don Quixote, restaurant chain Matsuya, and a bunch of beverages to make the virtual tourism more realistic. Regarding combat, the original Yakuza 2 apparently corrected some of the major flaws with Yakuza 1 systems, but I honestly didn't bother with it after my traumatic time trying out the first PS2 title. For the Kiwami remake of Yakuza 2, we'll see a departure from the 4 different fighting styles from Kiwami 1. Since the game was made on the same engine as Yakuza 6, Kiwami 2 will take a lot from 6's combat. To be honest, it isn't all that different, as it still revolves around hit actions. You got rush combos, quick steps, heavy attacks, it's all pretty much the same, you just don't have different fighting styles anymore. What did change is the way in which you evolve your stats and earn new battle skills, something I enjoyed quite a lot. Whenever you do anything in the game like clearing sub-stories, playing minigames, or eating food, that will earn you a specific type of XP. Red, blue, yellow, green, or purple. Depending on the amount of XP you have in each type, you will get to level up a specific stat or skill. It's pretty fun and it encourages you to engage with everything the game has to offer. And oh boy, Kiwami 2 has a lot to offer. We get pretty much all of the side crap from the previous title, and not one but 2 kick-ass minigames that are among my favorites in any game. Majima Construction and Cabaret Club Grand Prix. Both of these have their own side plot and characters, so it's incredibly easy to sink hours upon hours in each mode, completely forgetting what's happening in the main story. Like, oh my, Sayama was shot and is in hiding and I have to help her. But that will have to wait, because I gotta help a platinum hostess with her laundry or else she won't work to her best ability when we face the Executive League. You know, priorities. I'll talk a bit more about Cabaret Club when we tackle Yakuza 0. Similarly, I'll tackle the clan creator when talking about Yakuza 6. So yeah, in Kiwami 2 we got 2 in-depth, addictive minigames, an engaging main plot that trumps the one in the first game in every way, a bunch of new memorable characters, and a great looking game because of the updated Dragon engine. If Yakuza seems like something that would appeal to you, I cannot recommend Kiwami 2 enough. After 2 titles in less than a year, Yakuza would need to restructure itself for the 7th generation of consoles, something which would understandably take a while. So to tide fans over in the meantime, in 2007 Japan got an insane live-action reimagining of the first game. If you're deep down the Yakuza rabbit hole, I highly recommend this movie. You'll have a blast. 2008 would see the release of Kenzan, the first samurai spin-off, which I never played and know nothing about. Anyway, in early 2009, Yakuza 3 would finally be released, bringing the series to the PS3. That means we get a much better looking game than the ones originally on the PS2, with great facial animations due to the new Magical V engine. The face scans in Yakuza are, to me, among the best in the industry, and Yakuza 3 jump-started this trend. And while we see great evolution in the visual aspect, other changes aren't as palatable. Hase Seishu, the key writer for Yakuza 1 and 2, would not return for 3, so Masayoshi Yokoyama, who worked in tandem with Seishu in the previous games, would go solo for 3. And I don't know what he was thinking. The story in this one is a mess. After the events in 2, Kiryu decides to accept custody of an orphanage in Okinawa, hoping to raise children and, I guess, stop them from joining criminal enterprises. Kiryu makes sure Majima and Daigo can keep the Tojo clan running. He and Sayama have the most amicable and least exciting breakup in history, and he's off to Okinawa. And then we spent half the game helping out every single orphan with their mundane drama and dealing with some raggedy local Yakuza family, waiting for this known plot to somehow connect to whatever is happening in Kamurocho that's far more compelling, since it involves a bunch of characters we actually know and care about. Kashiwagi, for instance, gets a great send-off, and I'm sorry, I'll have to ramble about the Sayama thing here. The way the game discards her is just weird. It feels like one of those TV shows or movie series in which an actor gets fired because they've been cancelled, or are just insufferable to work with, and they just returned for a scene or two in the new season in order to wrap up their character arc in the quickest and laziest way possible. You know what I'm talking about. However, Yakuza is not a TV show. They didn't have to go this route. I mean, it feels like they were so eager to work on that Yakuza dad on the beach angle that they just threw away any and every development from the second game. And that was not needed. They could have worked around it, add some flashbacks with Sayama and Kiryu to show how things were not working out between them, or, I don't know, just say they were dating long distance because of Sayama's career, and then have her appear in the end of the game to help Kiryu for a hot second. The way she's dumped it's just a hard pill to swallow, because these games always find ways to bring people back even though they have nothing to add to the story anymore. And at the same time, they drop a character who actually did have a reason to be there. Alright, the Sayama rant is over, let's complain about something else. How about combat? There really is a case to be made for a Kiwami 3, especially when you fight a boss in this game. They will block or dodge forever, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's not fun. I mean, we've had insane boss battles before, like Shimano in Kiwami 1 or any Man in Black encounter in Kiwami 2, but every single boss battle in Yakuza 3 is a slog. And the side stuff isn't as entertaining as in the past as well. I mean, the revelations that unlock new heat actions are pretty amusing, but other than that, yeah, there's nothing all that interesting. We don't get any minigame as cool as Cabaret Club or Clan Creator. The closest thing, Create a #1 Hostess, doesn't come close to the magic of the real thing. For the most part, Yakuza 3 is just beating up dudes, clearing side quests, and patiently waiting for something meaningful to happen in the main story. It feels like the anime filler arc of the Yakuza series, and while I do like the beach setting and feel like the idea of Kiryu taking in a bunch of orphans is charming, it just doesn't reach the heights seen in the previous titles. To last place, it goes. Yakuza 3 sold relatively well, but it demonstrated that the series needed fresh ideas if it wanted to have any longevity without Seishu's knack for storytelling. And oh boy, do we get fresh stuff in Yakuza 4. I would love to be a fly on the wall to just grasp how the decision-making in this game came to be, because the creative choices are bold, to say the least. It's moments like this that show you that Sega truly lets RGG do whatever they want with this franchise, because no one in their right mind would dilute the appeal of their established protagonist evenly with 3 random dudes. And new dudes at that. We're not even talking about some fan-favorite NPCs here. Not only that, but no one other than RGG would also structure the story in a way that the characters barely interact with one another until the very end. Oh, and your established protagonist? He's the very last playable character you get to control. It's playing with fire. Franchises that tried similar shit like Metal Gear Solid and The Last of Us got absolutely roasted by angry fans. Not Yakuza though. Yakuza fans are reasonable people full of finesse who just accept whatever the RGG throws at them, including the insane structure in this game. So, we get 4 characters, each one playable for 4 chapters each, and then we move on to another character and play as them for another 4 chapters until the finale, where everyone and their mother will get to punch the shit out of their nemesis on top of the Millennium Tower, as usual. So, Yakuza 4 lives and dies by its protagonists, as each time we play as one of them, it's like a new game with a new storyline, ancillary to the main plot, a new minigame, and slight tweaks to the combat mechanics. I'm glad to say that overall this approach works. Whenever we change characters, it's a little jarring, but the writing quickly wins you over. Akiyama's part brings back that noir vibe that Seishu implemented so well in 1 and 2, and that was sorely missed in 3. I feel like starting the game with him and not Kiryu was a bold strategy that ultimately worked, because he's just so charismatic. He's a benevolent loan shark who does not charge any interest for his clients because reasons, I guess. It's ridiculous. But we're talking about Yakuza here, it comes with the territory. Akiyama is not a gangster by any means, but he is integrated to all the crime stuff in a neat way, and his connection to the first game is surprising and honestly pretty cool. Our second playable character is Saejima, who is Majima's sworn bro and a fascinating character, but the way his character arc is presented is ill-advised. Because he is in prison, his sections are heavily scripted and controlled. You just want to get out of there as quickly as possible, but the game takes its sweet time until his prison break. And when it finally happens, there's this battle that goes on forever. It's infuriating. Saejima is also incredibly slow to control. It's rough. At least we get one of the most memorable moments in the series, the reason why he's in jail. In 1985, Saejima killed 18 people of a rival clan, all by himself. There's a twist regarding this event that's so absurd, so ridiculous that I can't help but love it. Bless you, Yakuza. Our third protagonist, Tanimura, is a cop investigating this installment's main crime, and yeah, he's the weakest link in the cast. The idea that you will be playing from the other side of the law is alluring, but this section just doesn't grab you as much as the previous ones. It's no wonder Tanimura hasn't been seen since. Finally, Kiryu is the least involved in the main plot this time around. In fact, the way lead writer Yokoyama inserts Kiryu is so baffling that I can't help but kind of respect it. As you might expect, Kiryu will be forced to help the Tojo clan in yet another crisis, even though he's in Okinawa. It's pretty cool when we finally get to see all 4 characters together in Kamurocho, but having 4 back-to-back boss battles in the end was absolute dog shit. Oh well. All in all, Yakuza 4 is a step up from 3 in every way. Combat has been improved, facial animations are better, and most importantly, Masayoshi Yokoyama got his shit together and the writing hits that sweet spot seen in Yakuza's 1 and 2. 4 is definitely not as great as 2, but even though the Tanimura section is forgettable and Saejima's prison section can go on for too long, I feel like I still prefer it over 1. I mean, today at least. It's neck and neck for me. The now rebranded Ryuga Gotoku Studio would release Yakuza 5 nearly 3 years after 4 in December of 2012. Masayoshi Yokoyama, ever the overachiever, would see his duties increase as he would not only write, but also direct and produce Yakuza 5. I'm surprised he's not one of the playable protagonists as well, but okay. After all, this time around we get not 1, not 4, but 5 playable protagonists. And if you think that's excessive, know that we also get 5 districts and over 20 chapters split in 5 parts as well. So, is this game a 5-star experience? Well, in parts, it's pretty uneven. We start out as Kiryu for this one, probably because some Yakuza 4 player data showed RGG that many didn't even get to play as Kiryu before quitting or something, who knows. This time around he's not in Okinawa, but he's a taxi driver in Fukuoka sporting a fake name, because he wants to distance himself from Haruka and the other children, because he suddenly realized that he's got a pretty checkered past and that might affect the kids, especially Haruka, who's now a teenager and is going through her "I'm gonna be a pop star" phase. So yeah, now we have taxi driver Kiryu, and oh my, the Tojo clan is in trouble again, as Daigo disappears in the same area as Kiryu is in, so he once again gets swept up by the Yakuza crime shit. And you can see it in his face, poor Kiryu is so over it. Realistically, I don't think the Mafia would continually ask Kiryu for help. They would have either respected his wishes or just killed him by this point. But honestly, I don't mind it. By this point in the series, I was already so invested and just wanted Kiryu to be happy that I'm in the same mood as him. Let's just wrap this Mafia shit up so that I can focus on pimping my taxi to go street racing, bruh. Our second protagonist this time around is Saejima, and oof, it's even worse than Yakuza 4. He's in prison again for some reason, and when he escapes, he spends some time lost in the mountains, and his hunting minigame is objectively bad. His section is just so boring and sluggish that it may single-handedly prevent a second playthrough for me. After all, you can't skip chapters, so if you want to play Kiryu's part and the next one with Haruka, you will have to endure Saijuma's bullshit to get there. He is still great, but the character was done dirty. The reason why he's in jail makes no sense and completely betrays the conclusion of his character arc in 4. Yokoyama dropped the ball here. Anyway, speaking of Haruka, she's up next and is playable for the first time in the series. And if you expect to beat the shit out of people with her, you'll be surprised. She's in Sotenbori to achieve her dreams of becoming a pop idol. I know that might sound ludicrous, because in the West, if a teenage girl goes through a "I'm gonna be a pop star" phase, she just goes on one of those audition shows, gets humiliated on live TV, and moves on with her life. Not in Asia though. There, any sketchy agency can realistically start an indie pop idol group in a local market. So, Haruka has an actual shot of becoming a star, even if a minor one. So Kiryu removing himself from the picture does make sense. So in Haruka's part, she's just training to become an idol. And then there's a murder that in a country with 125 million people is somehow connected to the main plot of the game and the Daigo disappearance. So Akiyama, who was in Sotenbori doing something completely unrelated, joins Haruka and tries to solve the murder and help Haruka defeat her nasty rivals in an idol competition or something. And he gets to dance too, because why not? This whole Haruka section is absolute garbage, but I love it with all my heart. Her idol minigame is one of the best in the series, really. Finally, our last character is Shinada, some baseball dude we have never seen before and will never see again after this game. So it's really hard to care for him. He is charismatic and sort of funny with his love for hostesses, but yeah, not the wisest decision leaving the only new guy for last. And his baseball minigame is just sort of there as well. Meh. Regarding combat, the side stories and open world stuff, Yakuza 5 does not really change up much from the other PS3 games. It's still in the same engine as these titles, so it feels in line with 3 and 4. Placing this one in a ranking is tough though, because this was the game in which the really meaty minigames with elaborate plots that I love finally came to be, so it should be really high in the list. The taxi and the idol minigames are great, the cliffhanger ending is really memorable, but it's the Saijima part, man, it's so bad. I feel like I would be more willing to replay Yakuza 1 from top to bottom than 5, because 1 is more streamlined, even though it is overall a bit less fun. It's 2015 and 10 years have passed since the release of the original Yakuza. And to celebrate, we don't get a conclusion to that cliffhanger in Yakuza 5. Instead, we go back in time to the late 80s in order to experience Japan's bubble economy and the origins of our two playable protagonists, Kiryu and Majima, as Yakuza legends in Yakuza 0. Masayoshi Yokoyama, after years of developing his storytelling prowess, finally delivers a story that is up to par with Seishu's work. And he's also learned from the structural issues in Yakuza 4 and 5, so instead of playing a bunch of chapters as Kiryu and then a bunch of chapters as Majima, their stories are expertly woven together and everything is so very 80s. The clothes, the music, even the way you gain XP reflects the spirit of excess in Japanese history, as our characters don't level up with experience points, but with money instead. Hidenori Shoji's work on the franchise's score definitely needs to be complimented for Yakuza 0. It's his most memorable work by far, adding that 80s vibrancy to the Yakuza formula. All of the fake 80s pop songs are spot on. Rain is the most badass song in any Yakuza title, and Fever Time from the Cabaret minigame is one of my go-to hype songs when I need to pull an all-nighter for work. If you haven't tried it, try it. It works. Combat has been improved, as Zero finally adds multiple fighting styles for each character, which I had mentioned previously when talking about Kiwami 1. Combat in 3, 4, and 5 can get a bit numbing after a while, since there's very little variety to what you are doing. Zero really is a vast improvement mechanically because of this, and the engine for the game has also seen a slight update and everything looks better than in the previous PS3 games. The minigames are also superb and are a pretty substantial part of both Kiryu's and Majima's sagas. Since we level up with yen, and these minigames are a great way to farm money, there's a clear incentive to try them out. Kiryu's real estate agency is absolutely ridiculous, and I love it when he shows up to businesses with a suitcase full of cash. Nugget is probably the best real estate agent I have ever met. While this stuff with Kiryu is fun, Majima's Cabaret Club Management Sim is where it's at. It's just so good, managing the clients to make sure everyone's doing okay, and noticing that if a girl makes a circle with her hands, she wants a clean ashtray is S-tier gaming. The story, as I said before, is among the best in the series. The less you know about it, the better, to be honest. I went in absolutely blind. I had no idea what to expect. I just saw the game on sale and went for it. And still, even if you have played all the other titles before Zero, the less you know, the better, because then you can be fully surprised by who might pop up in the story. If you haven't played Zero, I highly recommend that you do. Just beware that this one, more so than other entries in the series, doesn't hold back when it comes to its cutscenes. There are moments when you just put the control down and watch maybe a 20-minute long cutscene play out, so be prepared for that. Still, this is a solid game mechanic-wise with an amazing story and characters. The way side characters from the early entries like Nishikiyama, Reina, Kashiwagi, and Kazama get a moment in the spotlight is great to see. It's an anomaly when it comes to prequels because it absolutely justifies its own existence. The replayability is also through the roof with this one. It was my first Yakuza title, and after playing all titles from 1 through 6, I had to replay Zero now for the nostalgia bomb, and it worked even better than the first time. To first place it goes. A year after Zero, the series would finally leave behind the PS3 for an updated engine, which we have already seen at work in Kiwami 2. This game looks gorgeous. I honestly believe there's no studio working right now that can do what RGG does in this series. Characters look amazing. They look just like the actors and models who lent their faces. There's no weirdness, no uncanny valley. There's this perfect balance of realism and anime. We don't get weirded out like it sometimes can happen with a supermassive title. And at the same time, the characters look far more realistic than stuff seen in, I don't know, a Ubisoft or BioWare title. No puffy faces here. I can't say for sure, but I guess working with a brand new engine might have slowed things down over at RGG. So in order to keep Yakuza 6 on track and not have a dev cycle of 5 years, this game is noticeably smaller in scale when compared to previous entries, especially 5. The story is shorter as well, since our only playable character in this one is Kiryu, since the game was sold as Kiryu's send-off. In reality, we would see him pop up sooner rather than later, but I digress. I know a lot of people don't like this one and see 6 as a major drop in quality when compared to the other titles. I have even seen people say this was just a demo for the new engine, and I don't know, I beg to differ. The story is really personal and tragic in this one, and the game does an outstanding job leveraging our attachment to these characters. The game's beginning mirrors that of Yakuza 1 as Kiryu is released from prison after 3 years in jail paying for all of his crimes. When he returns, the world has clearly changed in his absence. The Tojo clan has gone to shit, as always, but this time it's so bad that Daigo, Majima, and Sajima have all been imprisoned after being framed for an arson in Kamurocho. More importantly, Haruka is in a coma after a hit-and-run accident, having left a baby behind. Kiryu will have to discover what's happened to Haruka, and how this relates to the arson, which will lead him to Hiroshima, which is the second area we get to explore other than Kamurocho. I really enjoy this narrative. I feel like Yokoyama and Tsuyoshi Furuta, the second lead writer for this game, make us really care for Kiryu and Haruka. I just wanted these characters to have a peaceful ending after all the crap they have been through. I don't exactly enjoy what the game does with Kiryu in the end, but it's a worthy conclusion to his character arc. Sure, it didn't conclude shit, as Kiryu shows up in Yakuza 7 as a supporting character, and will be playable in 8, so yeah. All of that cheapens this supposed conclusion for the character, but if you ignore that, it does work. Yakuza 6 also rewards us with so much side crap that it honestly baffles me that anyone could feel shortchanged for content. We get a bar minigame in which Kiryu has to become buddies with every other drunk present at Gaudi Bar. We get a bizarre underwater spearfishing minigame, all of the Sega arcade stuff, and also Clan Creator, in which Kiryu pretty much starts his very own humble street gang, because I guess he wants to end up in prison again. It's like a reverse tower defense game in which your units have to eliminate the opponent's units. There are different classes for your units and unit leaders, and you get to decide their place in the gang hierarchy. It's addictive, and recruiting increasingly higher ranking members is a lot of fun. Mechanic-wise, the game is pretty much Kiwami Chu, which is great because I feel like that's the most balanced gameplay present in the beat-em-up games. Things will drastically change in the next entry, but before we get to that, let me rank 6. Like I said before, many dislike this entry, but I'm not among them. I enjoy the story, the minigames, the gameplay, and find the game gorgeous to look at. I know that this might be controversial, but for now, it's in my top 3, right below 0 and 2. And there's only one game left for us to tackle, so let's see if 6 can keep its placement. With Kiryu's saga finished, the franchise would need a major reinvention going forward. And it's weird because Yakuza, up until this point, had been very conservative when it came to changes in gameplay or characters. Like I said before, other than Sayama, this series will find a way to bring a bunch of people back every single installment, even when it makes no sense anymore and these characters have nothing else to say or do. Oh hey Yuya, what's up? So, it came as a big surprise when for the 8th entry in the series, RGG decided to come up with a new batch of characters and an all-new battle system. Turning Yakuza into a turn-based JRPG seemed ill-advised, at least for a series with Kiryu as its leading man. With new protagonist Ichiban Kasuga, things just click and make sense. I wasn't immediately receptive to Ichiban when I saw the first trailers for the game, as I felt it was pretty lazy to have him go to prison for a murder he didn't commit, just like Kiryu. However, when I finally got my hands on the game, he instantly won me over. Ichiban's energy is infectious, and you can sort of see how getting into street brawls and imagining these are Dragon Quest turn-based battles would make sense for someone like him. The story is ambitious and maybe the longest one in the series if I'm not mistaken. We get to experience how Ichiban gets entangled in an international conspiracy involving not only the Yakuza but the Korean and Chinese mafias as well, as he tries to adjust to life out of prison. He gets shot by his father figure Arakawa, he becomes a hobo, he becomes a security guard for a brothel, all while keeping a chipper attitude that could become irritating very quickly, but somehow doesn't. Our new open world area, Yokohama, is definitely the biggest one in the series, and slowly getting familiar with it the same way we might be with Kamurocho or Sotenbori is a fun challenge. Other characters from the main cast like Namba, Saiko, and Adachi also become instantly iconic, and you can totally see the Ichi gang taking the mantle from Kiryu and his entourage going forward. Combat is obviously different from anything we've had prior to this title, but for a JRPG fan like myself, getting used to the new mechanics didn't come as a challenge, and taking up new jobs and getting familiar with their skills came naturally. At face value, the combat isn't that challenging, but the further you go in the story, the difficulty will ramp up and your combat prowess will definitely be tested. And when you get to the endgame stuff and you need to max out job levels, get ready for hell. I've got the platinum for this game, and beating the true final Millennium Tower is one of my proudest gaming achievements. When it comes to minigames, Like a Dragon has your usual suspects, as well as Dragon Kart, which is pretty fun as racing minigames go, and the meteor offering, the business management sim. Creating a business empire out of rice crackers is as fun as it gets, with the same recruiting aspect seen in Cabaret Club and other minigames, so you can increase your efficiency. The shareholder meetings are a great satire of the real thing, and the whole minigame took over a dozen hours of my life. I regret nothing. All in all, Like a Dragon is probably the best entry point for the series right now. It has proven that RGG knows their stuff and can keep this going indefinitely. If they were able to reinvent this series once, they can definitely do it again when the time comes. As long as they have compelling stories to tell, addictive minigames to offer, and just the right amount of cheese, I'll be there. For my part, I feel like a Dragon, as amazing as it is, still doesn't ape Zero. That game still has a gravitas, and it pulls you in a way that very few games can do. Like a Dragon sort of feels like a lighter take on the Yakuza formula, and that's surely fine by me. To second place, it goes. And there you go, that's my ranking. How does it compare to yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to chat with you guys and discuss this franchise. And if you're new to Yakuza and would like to try the games out, I honestly would recommend you play them all. If you have the time and don't mind reading a lot of subtitles, that is. Do notice that if I were you, I'd play 0, Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2 back to back, and I would then control the urge to play 3 after the kick-ass ending of 2. Go play something else, give it a month or so, and then you can play 3, 4, 5, 6, and Like a Dragon. Going from Kiwami 2 to 3 is rough. I did it, and I don't recommend it. If playing all of these games feels daunting, and you would still like to try out the Yakuza beat-em-up formula, you could always check out the Judgment games. They were both made on the latest Dragon engine and feature a lot of the elements seen in Kiwami 2 and 6, while introducing new characters and self-contained stories in the Yakuza world. It's a great appetizer for sure. And that's it everyone, thank you all for watching, and please like and subscribe.